Hello everyone, back to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's second video. It takes around the 10th of December, so we're going to the first week to 10 days of the month with this update. And of course, it's a little bit beyond that actually with the GFS, because that runs around 2 weeks in terms of the extended part of the GFS. And also the E7DF postage stamps from E7DF ensembles, they run around 2 weeks as well. So it's kind of like a week to 2 weekly video update, really. So we just released JMA Friday. That video is extending out throughout the whole of December, basically. It's a month-end look ahead. Takes us more or less to the end of December, just a couple of days short of the very end, but pretty much we're there to the end of the month with JMA Friday this week. And, well, it's going for a very westerly Atlantic-driven December indeed. Both the JMA and the CFS really are going to town on these westerly winds. So if it's right, we're in for a very mild, very wet and windy, very westerly sort of December. But, of course, if it's an important word because these long-range ones are highly experimental, so could be wrong. But have a look at JMA Friday and see what you think. Coming up this evening, we're going to have the 13th Christmas update. So we're around halfway through with the Christmas updates now, and you'll see what the 13th Christmas update has to say around 7 o'clock tonight. But let's get on with our second video for today. And to begin, I'm going to give a shout out and say thank you to our latest patron and our latest donor. So our latest patron, our 45th patron for Gaz Weathervids is Barnabas Lawson. A big thank you to Barnabas for becoming the 45th patron for Gaz Weathervids. We're trying to get to 50 patrons by Christmas, so if you would like to join Barnabas and become a patron for Gaz Weathervids, then all you need to do is come to Gaz Weathervids' Patreon page. We linked this at all of the pages at Gaz Weathervids and in the description at YouTube. So you just come here, sign up for a Patreon account, and then you can pledge any amount of money that you'd like from $1 a month upwards to Gaz Weathervids. It's like a monthly recurring payment that you're sending to Gaz Weathervids. Of course, you can cancel it at any time, but it's kind of like an ongoing donation, and by doing that you become a patron for Gaz Weathervids. So we've got 45 patrons so far. Huge thank you to all of our patrons. It's something very, very special that you are doing for Gaz Weathervids, so big thank you to all of Gaz Weathervids patrons. If you'd rather just give a one-off donation, then you can do so through PayPal, and we've had a donation from Anne Miller. So again, a big thank you to Anne Miller for sending through a donation to Gaz Weathervids via the Gaz Weathervids PayPal page. And again, if you would like to give a one-off donation to Gaz Weathervids via PayPal, we link to the Gaz Weathervids PayPal page at all of the pages at Gaz Weathervids and in the description at YouTube. So you just come here. This is very simple. You just come to this page, you sign into your login to your PayPal account, and then you can just give whatever donation that you would like to Gaz Weathervids. It's all helping us to pay for the website, keep website online. So a big thank you to all of the donors, and a big thank you to all of the patrons for Gaz Weathervids. It is very special what you've done for Gaz Weathervids this year. I started this in June. I really didn't know what the response would be, but the response has been absolutely amazing. So a huge thank you to all of you for your donations or becoming patrons for Gaz Weathervids this year. And as I say, a huge thank you to all of you for doing that. Right, so let's get on with the video. Let's start off with the GFS ensembles for today's video. We're looking at Telford in the Midlands today. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Telford. And you can see we're actually a little bit cooler than average today, but we're going to go mild again over the weekend. Before we drop a little bit into the early and middle part of next week, before we pick up again towards the end of next week, before we drop again into like the following weekend. So there's a bit of a zonal sine wave that's going on here, at least in the first part of the ensemble. We see these cooler and warmer and cooler and warmer sectors sort of alternating. And then as we get into the second week of December, which is that period just there, we kind of like lose that zonal sine wave, and it looks like go a little bit cooler than average, if anything, through the second week of December. Although not dramatically cold, let's put that on the table. There's no sign of anything particularly cold, except for these colder outlier members down there, but they are very much in a minority, I think. Most of these ensemble members are just a little bit cooler than average. But again, as you go further out, you tend to lose that zonal sine wave anyway. So up and down with the temperatures, but probably in the next week, for Telford anyway, a little bit on the milder than average side, and then maybe a little bit cooler for the second week of December. Precipitation-wise, again, it's been a very similar story over the past few updates. We see loads of precipitation spikes coming up pretty much from beginning to end. We've got a drier day today, but make the most of it because it looks like we're in for a bit of a deluge, to be honest. There's just loads of precipitation spikes showing up there from tomorrow, those spikes just there, and then just going through the rest of the ensemble. And even that drier period that was showing up a few days ago around here, say 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th of December, that's gone. And essentially, it just looks very unsettled, very wet from start to finish. So the Atlantic's unleashed. We're going to see the return of the Atlantic, if you like, or the Atlantic strikes back, however you want to frame the sentence with a Star Wars theme, Revenge of the Atlantic, however you want to pronounce it or phrase it. It looks like the Atlantic is back in business big time after being out of commission for much of this year. Actually been a very, very quiet year in terms of Atlantic weather, but things are really cranking up now. So temperature anomalies for the next week from the 30th of November through to the 8th of December are showing a bit of a north-south split. Scotland is actually coming out a little bit cooler than average, but England and Wales coming out milder than average. It's a mild scene through most parts of Europe in the week ahead. Precipitation anomalies look wetter than average for much of England and Wales and Ireland from the 30th of November to the 8th of December. Scotland looks a little bit drier than average. It will be a bit drier and colder in the week ahead across Scotland, but through most parts of the country it's actually going to be a very wet, unsettled and fairly mild week, particularly down in the south. In America, it's a mild scene across eastern parts of the states for the 30th of November to the 8th of December. Above average temperatures there. Colder than average out in the west and the northwest. Precipitation-wise, really varying from state to state. So in the southeastern part of the states, it does actually look a little bit drier there. In these northern states, sort of central northern states, looks very wet over there. And also things are turned a little bit more unsettled across California now as well. But as I say, it does vary very much from state to state for precipitation anomalies from the 30th of November to the 8th of December. That's how the GFS is looking for Monday. Very unsettled. Low pressure is centred to the northeast of Scotland, or to the east of Scotland. We've probably got a trailing weather front that's going all the way back out into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So that's setting us up for what could be a very unsettled week through the course of next week. Now, we will pull some colder and drier air down into Scotland up here, but elsewhere we're influenced by these areas of low pressure. That's how things are looking through the middle of next week. So this takes us to 6 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. And again, mildish to the south, excuse me, to the southwest, but fairly cold actually into the far north of Scotland. There is a weather front that's through here. And of course, to the south of that, it's going to be mild and rainy. But to the north, or along the weather front on its northern side, there might just be the chance of something a little bit wintry happening through the middle of next week, some snow. And that will be most likely through, I would have thought, the position of this elongated front will be chopping and changing a bit in model output. But I would have thought the most likely area to be on that dividing line would probably be central southern Scotland, maybe Northern Ireland, possibly Northern England. So anywhere further south of that, it's quite unlikely at the moment that you'll see anything wintry next week. And the far north of Scotland could actually have a mainly dry but cold week. But again, the divide, the battle line for next week is going to be chopping and changing a bit within the model output, so we'll wait and see on that. You'll know more when we do weekend forecast tomorrow. Now, by the end of next week, the GFS is just pushing these deep areas of low pressure through the country, keeping things very unsettled as we run up towards day 10. That low pressure, as it clears away into the North Sea, is starting to pull down some colder air from the north and the northeast. So that's how we look as we move up towards day 10. This is Sunday the 9th of December, and we are pulling down quite a cold north to northeasterly wind there. So that will probably bring a cold snap. It will bring night frost and probably for northern and eastern parts of the country some snow showers. That's how we look at day 10, which is Monday the 10th of December, under a ridge of high pressure. But look what's happening out in the Atlantic. We've got this very deep area of low pressure here to the south of Greenland. That's an intense depression. And so, although we are trying to build in a ridge and we are within cold air, it looks as though the days of that ridge are pretty much numbered with such a deep trough of low pressure out in the middle of the Atlantic. And that's exactly what happens. We go to Tuesday the 11th, just a little bit beyond day 10, and we sweep the Atlantic back in. It turns wet and windy, and then that takes us through into extended range of the GFS 6 o'clock run. We get to Sunday the 16th of December, which is as far as we can go, 384 hours, and we're still looking really unsettled there with low pressure over the top of the country. I think the central pressure of that is getting close to around 965 or possibly 960 millibars, 965 to 960 millibars. That is very, very low pressure indeed. And that's bringing more heavy rain and showers, long spells of rain across the country as well. Starting to pull down some colder air into that low pressure again. And we've got this area of low pressure down here. Where that goes would be interesting. If that was to take that sort of track, then that could start to allow some colder air to move down from the north. But of course, that's way too far away to have any confidence in. As far as the precipitation totals are concerned, this is the 10-day accumulated precipitation based on that 6 o'clock run of the GFS we're just looking at. This from a weather outlook. And you can see we are in for significant rain over the next 10 days. So the wettest places are in the west, of course exposed to those westerly winds. We're talking about sort of 80, 90 millimetres of rain for southwestern Scotland, around 100 millimetres of rain, that's 4 inches. For western parts of northwestern parts of England, and down to the west of Wales, it looks like we're going to around 125 millimetres across northern parts of Wales. So that's kind of like 5 inches of rain in 10 days. Obviously, that's all going to run down into the rivers, and it's not impossible that we could go from very dry conditions that we've been in for several weeks and months into flooding. I wouldn't be at all surprised if that happened as all this rain runs downstream into the rivers. But it certainly looks very wet in the west. Otherwise, we're looking at around 50 millimetres of rain through most parts of the country, a couple of inches in the next 10 days. That's quite a lot, and that's quite a lot for 10 days, and it will start to allow the groundwater to recover a little bit. It's been a really dry year. We are running a very significant rainfall deficit, so I mean, it's bad news for anyone who's going to get flooded, of course, but overall, this is good news. This is a good sign that we are seeing significant rainfall, because we do very much need it before we get into next spring and summer, of course. So this is how the GEM is looking. This is the Canadian model, and so again, starting off on Monday. So again, we've got this dividing line between colder air that's trying to push down from the north. On the northern side of this low pressure, these mild south to southwesterly winds trying to come up from the south. There's a weather front that's strung out in that sort of position, developing waves and areas of low pressure along that dividing line. We go into the middle of next week, and that low pressure is actually a little bit further south compared to where the GFS has it. The low pressure is running through central and southern parts of the country, and so that allows northern areas to turn out a little bit cold and push that colder air just a little bit further south. I did say that the position of this divide between the milder and colder air next week is likely to be chopping and changing. By Thursday, really deviating a lot from what the GFS is showing by Thursday as we build this ridge up from the southwest, and we settle things down at least temporarily on Thursday before the next weather system pushes through on Friday, bringing more wet and windy weather. We're going to the extended range with the Canadian model, and looking very different at day 10 compared to what the GFS is showing. So we're setting up a trough there and moving the jet stream, digging the jet stream a long way southwards, setting up a trough through central parts of Europe. We've got this ridge building up in the middle of the Atlantic and pushing north. There are hints of a bit of high pressure over Scandinavia as well. So that's turning things colder from a north or northeast direction. And unlike what the GFS shows at this time frame, which is just a very, very short-lived little cold snap, and it's very quickly pushed away by low pressure from the Atlantic. That's a little bit more sustained with those northerly or northeasterly winds, or at least it could be a little bit more sustained. So that one, the GEM at day 10, is hinting at something rather colder, perhaps, setting up there. And then finally, let's just go through to the ECMWF, finally for these charts. So we go through to the ECMWF, and this is what that is showing on Monday. Again, very unsettled. The low pressures to the northeast of Scotland. There's a weather front in that sort of position on the northern side of that front. It's cold on the it's colder on the southern side of that front. It's quite a lot milder. We run through course of next week. So initially we bring down those colder northerly winds on Tuesday, but then this area of low pressure comes back in from off the Atlantic on Wednesday. Now bear in mind, again, to the north of that area of low pressure around here, the air is going to be quite cold. To the south, the air is going to be quite mild. So again, big divide between north and south with that area of low pressure. As that low pressure pushes through the country, punches through the country and clears away Wednesday to Thursday, we turn those winds back into the north and start to drop colder air down across the country on Thursday. But then here comes the next low pressure, very much in line with what the GFS is showing. We bring the low pressure rattling back through on Friday next week, turning milder, wetter and windier. Moving up towards day 10, the ECM looks like that. So again, it does turn colder over this weekend of the 8th and the 9th of December. We do get a cold snap going as this low pressure exits the UK and moves into Germany. That pulls the winds in to a north or northeasterly direction, and we are building up a little bit of high pressure to our north, but with low pressure in the Atlantic, we do have to wonder how long any ridge close to Iceland would be able to last for. That's how we look at day 10, which is Monday the 10th of December. Quite a messy picture, but we're not bringing the area of low pressure in off the Atlantic and the milder air in off the Atlantic as significantly as the GFS is doing. So it does still look a little bit blocked, actually. We've got high pressure around Iceland. We've got low pressure somewhere across the northeast of Europe. Have got a deep area of low pressure to the south of Iceland. So that's trying to bring the energy in from off the Atlantic, but it's having a little bit of a struggle. And so at day 10, that is still quite cold, actually, from the ECM. On Monday the 10th of December. And where we would go beyond that would be an interesting question. So would this ridge close to Scandinavia, will that strengthen, or will this low pressure around Iceland and Greenland, will that just move in from off the Atlantic and flatten off any attempt of high pressure around Scandinavia? It would be interesting to see if we could run on a little bit further with that, see where it went. But of course we have to stop at day 10 with the ECMWF operational run. These are the ECMWF ensembles. This is from De Beeld in Holland, or it's for De Beeld in Holland, from the Dutch Met Agency. So again, you can see that we're starting off pretty mild. These are our temperatures on the side, the dates are on the bottom. We're starting off at a mild or even a very mild level through to next weekend. And then next weekend we get this slide down in the temperature. The red dash line is the ensemble mean, so you'll notice it is sort of sliding down through the course of next weekend and into the second week of December. Although not going particularly cold, there is the black dash line just there. That's the control run of the ECMWF, and that goes very cold in the extended range through that second week of December. But it's a cold outlier. The ensemble mean doesn't go anywhere near that cold in Holland. This is how the postage stamp's looking, finally, in terms of the E70F ensemble. So you think that each one of those green lines represents one individual member of the ECMWF ensemble. So obviously we start off with the ensembles with pretty much agreement, but by the end of the ensemble we have a lot of scatter. We have as many options seemingly on the table. This Icelandic metals, we can actually see all of those individual options that might occur with those ECMWF ensemble members. So this is for day 10. This is for the 12th, this is for the 10th, I should say, of December. So we've got 23 E70F ensemble members that look like this. They have a ridge out to the west of the country and going up towards Greenland. And then they have the trough over to the east of us, but also out in the Atlantic. And so the jet stream will be doing something a little bit like that. So they'll be pulling the wind in from a northerly direction, probably quite cold, indicating a cold snap, but you'd have to question how long it would last with this trough of low pressure in the Atlantic and not a particularly strong block to the west of the UK. You would think this low pressure would eventually break this attempt to reach down and bring low pressure in from off the Atlantic Ocean. We've got another 14 ensemble members looking like that. There's 51 members of the E70F ensembles. 14 of them at day 10 are just bringing in a flat westerly flow and the jet stream coming in from off the Atlantic with high pressure down to our south. So they're very mild, westerly and Atlantic driven, of course. Then we've got a further 10 ensemble members that look like this. Low pressure is out to the southwest of Greenland and also seemingly to our east. And then we've got quite a strong ridge of high pressure to the west of the UK and pushing up to our north as well. So that's drier and colder. The wind will be pulling in from a north to northeasterly direction with those ones. And unlike what we see here, which is a fairly flimsy ridge in the Atlantic and going up towards Greenland, this is a stronger ridge in the Atlantic and going up to Greenland. So that will potentially be indicating perhaps a little bit more of a prolonged, cold snap there at day 10. There's only 10 ensemble members doing that, but those ones do indicate something a little bit more prolonged in terms of a cold snap. And then we've got a final 4 that look like this with below average heights. Change the colour. We've got below average heights out to the west and then above average heights down to our southwest. And those ones are milder again, bring the wind up from the southwest. So I think really it's looking fairly Atlantic dominated at day 10, but there is a chance of a cold snap anyway, and maybe there is a minimal chance of something a little bit more prolonged in terms of cold weather. At the very end of the E70F ensembles, taking us to 2 weeks away, the 15th of December, this is how we look. So we've got 13 ensemble members looking like that with above average heights down to our southwest. So they're bringing in a mild west to southwesterly flow. We have a further 13 that also look mild. So again, the below average heights out to the northwest, then the above average heights to our southeast. Those ones also are pulling up mild southwesterly winds. We've got a further 9 that look like this, with again this deep area of below average heights, low pressure out to our west. They're very unsettled, very wet, but mild with wind pulling in from off the Atlantic. Then we have another 9 ensemble members that are much colder. Those ones are developing a Scandinavian high with high pressure to our northeast and pulling in an easterly wind. So there's a low chance, just 9 of them are doing that. There is a low chance that in a couple of weeks we've got easterly winds. However, it is by no means the favoured option. And then we've got a final 7. Let's get rid of that. Maybe we've got the final 7 ensemble members in 2 weeks, but again look very unsettled with the below average heights centred over top of the UK. In fact, the colour is so intense it's hard to make out the UK, but we are there under that trough of below average heights, and we have the ridge a long way out in the middle of the North Atlantic. Those are not only unsettled but probably quite cold, as the air is kind of like coming out of Greenland around that deep depression. So one way or another, by the time we get through to days 10 to 14, it does look as though the ECM ensembles are really keen to keep us in an Atlantic pattern overall, Atlantic dominated pattern, which is something that was showing up with JMA Friday as well. So all of the model output at the moment seems to be singing from the same hymn sheet, which is the first half of December is likely to be Atlantic driven, and it's likely to be very unsettled. It is likely to be mild as well, particularly for the south, but northern areas could be colder. And within this Atlantic driven weather, we've established that there is cold potential, and that is particularly for northern parts of the country, but possibly a cold snap showing up somewhere around days 8, 9, 10, 11, probably not lasting very long because the Atlantic is in a very buoyant phase and there's no real blocking to fend off the Atlantic onslaught. So if we do get a cold snap around day 10, probably won't last more than couple of days, but for northern parts of the country, I think there could be some wintry weather, and this is looking like it could be really good news for the Scottish ski resorts, by the way. It's kind of pattern we're seeing here that could deliver quite a lot of snow to the Scottish mountains, so if you've got a skiing holiday planned sometime before Christmas in Scotland, might not be too bad at all. Right, so that's your second video update done for today. Come back this evening at 7 o'clock when we'll have your 13th Christmas update. We are halfway through the Christmas updates. We haven't had a cold, classic, snowy Christmas update yet this year. Will the 13th give us that? You'll find out at 7 o'clock this evening. Tomorrow, a big weekend of updates. Going to start off tomorrow with the week ahead forecast. We'll also have a look at weather next week to 10 days as well tomorrow. Terry Scully's December forecast will be released tomorrow, so that'll be a very interesting read. And then on Sunday, as well as the 14th Christmas update, we're going to have your winter forecast. So the winter 2018-19 forecast from Gav's Weather Vids will be released on Sunday at 10 a.m. at Gav's Weather Vids and on YouTube. We've done all of the Christmas updates. We've done 13 Christmas updates. We've done 3 seasonal model roundups. It's all been building up to the winter forecast. You'll find out what we're forecasting for this winter on Sunday. All will be revealed, so not long to wait now. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.